Hi guys, I'm Woodcraft Hamster, and I thought I'd do a quick indoor review today of one of my axes, which is this, the Cold Steel Trailhawk. Now this is not everybody's favourite axe, and there are pros and cons to its use depending on what you want to use it for. But what I wanted to do was a couple of reviews on this. One indoor, as I'm doing now. That will just basically give you an idea of how it works in the workshop, and also just to give you a few general details about this axe. The outdoor review I'll come to later on, and I will do that at some point in the near future, mostly because one of the primary purposes of this, other than using it as a sort of a regular axe, is the fact that it can be thrown. Now I don't advocate using this, certainly in the UK, as any form of hunting tool, but there is a sort of quite a large amount of enjoyment you can have using this as a throwing tool, and you know, personally I've certainly had hours of fun, as have a number of people I know who own these, just basically kind of, you know, maybe not in competition, but certainly just sort of sitting there and using it for that purpose. But what I'll do, let me bring the camera a little bit closer in, and I'll show you a few features of this axe, and sort of my own pros and cons. Right then guys, so this axe is what I would consider a general all-rounder. It does a number of things, some of them better than others, and it does have a few features that do lend itself to being a really good sort of outdoor camping bushcraft axe. First of all is the fact that it is what's known as a takedown axe, or takedown tomahawk, which basically means you can take off the head, and that will fit in a pocket in the side of a backpack. I mean, you know, this is, if I put it up against my hand, I mean, this is absolutely tiny. One of the detriments of this is obviously that the head is not particularly heavy, so you do need to put a little bit more effort in when you're using it. However, you know, that sort of swings and roundabouts basically. But you know, as far as this goes, it's a very, very small, lightweight axe, and that's what it's designed to be. You've got a convex grind on the blade, and you can get this to a really, really good sharpness quite easily with just a little bit of work on a whetstone, maybe a strop every now and again. Now obviously, hopefully you can see that well enough on the camera there. Yeah, there are some nicks and dents in this blade. As I said before, the reason for that is that I do use this as a throwing axe, because quite frankly that's what I bought it for. But that doesn't mean you can't sharpen them back out fairly easily. What I have done with this particular axe head, it comes with sort of a black painted finish. I took that finish off, and I used some gum blue just to blue the head, because I prefer that look. That's just my personal preference. It probably took me all of about 3 hours to do, and I was left with what I think is a much nicer looking axe head. But again, these kind of axes and tomahawks can be heavily modified. If you do a search on YouTube for you know, Cold Steel Trailhawk modification, something of that sort, what you will find is numerous people have done so many different things to this combination. It's unbelievable. But going back to the original point, so you can take this handle off, or sorry, this head off, and you can put it in your pack. It then means you can slip this wooden handle maybe down the side of your pack, inside your pack, wherever you want to put it. So it really does pack away quite small. You can put it together and you can pack it the way it's you know, when it's together, which is fine. There's no reason why you shouldn't do that. But it does give you a few more options. The other benefit of this, and I have done this once or twice, and I may well do a video on it. What you can do is just take this with you. Take this and nothing else. Take that, throw it away. Or maybe not throw it away, leave it at home. So you just take this with you. And what you can do while you're out in the woods, you can make your own handle. If you want to go really, really lightweight, or you want to try and set yourself a challenge, just take this with you and absolutely nothing else. You don't need a knife, because you've already got a blade. It's not the best blade in the world, I'll grant you. And to give you an example, just a little bit of off-cut branch that I had hanging around, using for another video. And again, you can cut reasonably well with this. You know, it's not the sharpest blade in the world, but you can cut quite effectively with it. When again, depending on how you want to hold it, you can almost sort of hold it like sort of an ice pick grip, and you know, you can carve away quite a lot of material quite quickly. So if you imagine you've gone out to the woods, you've found, or you've cut off, or you've broken off a branch from somewhere, you know, you can sort of hack away at it like so, just to get it to the sort of the right dimensions, and then you can sort of fine tune it to your needs. And what I have done, as I said, I've made my own handles for these. They're obviously not as nice or as pretty as the other ones. Normally I will take a knife with me anyway, so I'll be honest, it's easier to use a knife than it is to use this blade. However, if that's what you want to do, you know, there's nothing stopping you from doing that, especially if you're one of these people who wants to go really, really lightweight. You know, you take one cutting tool with you, this is it. One of the other benefits, and if I just grab the handle that comes with it plus a little wedge of wood, and I haven't tried this, and again maybe I will do, maybe I'll try and make another video in the future of how to do this. But what you can do is get sort of a wedge of wood like this, or you can get yourself a branch with a much thicker end where you can sort of shave it and carve it down. And what you can do, and hopefully let me just make sure you can see that on the camera there. Now how am I doing this? And again, as I say, I've not done this before, but what you can do is this. Now realise this is a very, very bodged up version of it. But what you can do is like this, get yourself some paracord, go through the eye of the axe, really, really bind it tight. I mean, this setup that I'm using here probably wouldn't work. I'd need to refine it a bit. But again, what you've now done, and if I keep this together while I turn it round, which I can't, didn't think that was going to work, but hopefully you can see on the camera there, what you've now created is an adze. So if you can imagine me flipping this round through 180 degrees, which I'm going to try and do, let's see if I can do this another way, like so. So you've now created an adze, which means you've now got the capacity to hollow something out. So again, if you were to try and do a really, really sort of basic bushcraft trip, where you didn't want to take sort of hardly any tools or materials with you, you've got yourself an axe, which essentially means you can split wood. Once you've split that wood, what do you then want to do? So there's your piece of wood. Let's see if I can line this up. And it's not the best splitter in the world because it's got a very, very narrow blade, but it will work. So this, again, this is by no means a green piece of wood, but it just gives you an idea. If you can find yourself some dead standing, let's try that again. Find yourself some nice dead standing wood, you've prepared your firewood. And again, the other thing to mention about this, it does come, if you can see this little hole on the side here, it does come with a set screw. So what you can do, you will use a little Allen key for that, and you'll screw it in, and this axe head will then be solid. Now, to be honest, I've been using this for a couple of years now, and I'm quite happy and confident that without that set screw, which I removed and I threw away because my whole purpose was using the axe like this, taking it apart. The problem with the set screw is that you then need to carry an Allen key with you, which I couldn't be bothered with, I'll be totally honest. So what I'll do, where are we, so you can see me on the camera, there's your axe head, you just slot it on, give it a little bit of a tap, just to seat it in, and that's going nowhere. I mean, I'm putting quite a bit of force on this, and again, just to give you an example, there's no movement there, and the way in order to get this off, and again I realise you can't see the head from that camera angle, just give it a little tap and it comes straight off. But it is secure enough on there that you can use it without risk of, let's say you're chopping and cutting at something and this happening halfway through. And again, even if it did, not that that is necessarily the safest thing in the world, but if that did happen, there is no way that the blade of this axe is going to touch you in any way. Yes, you might get a bruised knuckle, you might even get a little bit of a scrape or a cut on your knuckle where it tears away a bit of skin where this part of the axe head is touching you, but there is no way that it's going to cut you. Maybe you'll pinch a little bit of skin between the handle and your finger, which is unfortunate, and I'm sure it'll be a little bit painful, but it's not going to do anything to you. What I do tend to find is that when you're using this as a throwing axe, that is when the head will come loose. So if you miss your target or you don't hit it squarely and the axe kind of pings off, that's when this will loosen, because it's getting a sort of a shock to it. I can't see if I can demonstrate that here, and it's actually not doing it, believe it or not. But you know, if you're throwing this, you can sort of glance off of your tree or whatever it is you're using as a target, and this will come loose. So all you do is, again, just give it a little tap and it's done. But again, as far as this goes, this is a really nice, useful little axe. I mean, just if I can see if I can find a bit of an offcut somewhere around here. I've normally got plenty. Okay, so here's my little board that I use for fire lighting when I'm in the workshop, just for some of my videos. And again, it's not the sharpest axe in the world. You know, I do have sharper, but and this is quite well seasoned timber. This has been drying out in my workshop for probably well over a year. And there's no real problem with cutting through that. Let me see if I've got something a little bit fresher. There we go. We'll just use this little offcut of branch again. So again, I was using this, making the example in another video of how you could make a tent peg. And you know, this is still a little bit green, this bit of wood. For carving green, you've got no issues with this axe, none whatsoever. And again, if I want to lay it down this way, you know, I'm pretty much halfway through that piece of wood. You know, so it's certainly a usable axe. There's no concern in my mind that this axe will do a job. Will it take you a little bit more effort? Yes, it probably will. And you know, is it the ideal axe for the job? No, it's definitely not. However, unless you're going out with the intention of using an axe exclusively as your only tool when you're bushcrafting, for kind of every bit of work, and then maybe you can warrant taking something a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier. You know, this will certainly meet your needs for most bushcraft sort of camp tasks, that kind of thing. Right then, guys, well, I hope that was useful. Just a few of my thoughts on this this tomahawk or axe as something to use for bushcrafting in general. I think it certainly has a place, which is why I own one. I don't use it massively often, but I certainly do take it out on occasion, especially when space and weight are at a premium, or I just want to carry something that I think that maybe I'll need to use an axe for, but I'm not 100% sure. Again, you know, these shafts, these halves of these axes, you know, you can pick up fairly cheaply, because where you are throwing them, you do have a risk of these breaking if something glances off or it hits at the wrong angle. They're fairly cheap, and again, what you can do is you can shorten these down to fit your needs. So where I use a very small hatchet, probably only about this big, for most of my carving work when I'm outdoors, you know, you could cut this down and you've got a very small carving axe that again you can still take apart. I wouldn't recommend throwing it in that configuration. These hafts are of a certain length to allow you to throw them with the correct sort of centre of gravity and everything else. But again, I will do an outdoor video on this, and I'll show you a little bit of throwing. I might try and put it together in an Adze configuration, and I may even try and make my own handle as well, just to give you an idea of the versatility of this. But again, hope it was useful, guys. Hit like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I hope you'll all join me next time. Thanks, guys.